Tonight, we're stepping into the real Wild West, not the glossy Hollywood version with heroic cowboys and clean gunfights, but the raw, filthy, dangerous reality where survival was never guaranteed. Think you could have handled it? Well, there's a reason they called it wild. If you enjoy stories like this, a quick like or subscribe really helps. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? Drop your location and local time in the comments. It's amazing to see our little global community grow around these stories. Now, dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey. You've just woken up in the American frontier. The year is 1870. The good news, you're about to witness a legendary time in history. The bad news, you probably won't make it through the day. Before your eyes even open, the first challenge hits you. The smell. But not the earthy scent of nature. It's the reek of unwashed bodies, animal droppings, and open sewage. See, in the Wild West, bathing wasn't a daily habit. Most people washed once a month, if that. Some didn't bathe all winter. Water was too precious to waste on hygiene. Drinking and cooking came first. You drag yourself off a straw mattress crawling with bedbugs, every bone in your body aching. In the frontier, life meant non-stop physical labor. No weekends, no breaks, no rest. You think your job is hard now? Try 14-hour days hauling water, chopping wood, or digging in a mine. By 30, your body would already be worn out. The average lifespan? Around 35 years. Standing up, the chill hits you. If it's winter, your cabin might be 20 degrees below freezing inside. There's no insulation, no heater, no electric blanket. Firewood is scarce, and you'd have let the fire burn out overnight to save fuel. Summer? Different kind of suffering. Sweat drips down your back, and there's no escape. Forget comfort. Most men owned just two outfits: canvas or denim pants, rough cotton shirts that rubbed raw against the skin. Women, they wore layers: chemises, corsets, petticoats, and heavy dresses, no matter the temperature. Those clean, stylish outfits from Western movies? Pure fiction. Now your stomach growls. Time for breakfast. Hope you like beans, biscuits, and burnt coffee, because that's what you're eating, possibly every day. The frontier diet was repetitive and lacking nutrients. Fresh fruits and vegetables were rare. Meat was usually salted or smoked. Refrigeration didn't exist. Scurvy, a disease from vitamin C deficiency, was common. Gums bleeding, teeth falling out, not fun. And the coffee? It's not Starbucks. More like a pot of boiling bitterness, sometimes with eggshells or salt added to cut the taste. Still, the caffeine was worth it. Before stepping outside, remember one thing. Always check your boots. Scorpions and snakes often crawled in at night. One bite, and you're miles from medical help. Outside, the landscape is breathtaking, vast, open, wild, but also unforgiving. Weather turned deadly fast. Blizzards, flash floods, tornadoes, and droughts were all fair game. The sky might look peaceful now, but that can change in minutes. If you lived near a town, you might think that meant safety. Not quite. Frontier towns were disease-ridden nightmares. No proper sewage systems, no understanding of germs. Cholera, typhoid, diphtheria, tuberculosis, they spread like wildfire. A single outbreak could wipe out half the population in weeks. You decide to head into town anyway, but what you find might surprise you. Most Western towns weren't planned. They just happened. Buildings were thrown up wherever people found space. The roads? Not paved. Just dirt paths that became sucking mud pits when it rained, and choking dust bowls when it didn't. The smell? Even worse than before. Horse manure everywhere, because horses were the main transport. No sanitation crew, no sewage system. In the busiest parts of town, waste sometimes piled knee-deep. Flies swarm around you, thick and relentless. You start to understand how disease spread so easily here. As you walk the town's main street, you pass the saloon, probably the busiest place in town. Forget the swinging doors and cheerful piano from the movies. This place is a rough, one-room shack. The bar is just raw planks, the floor is sticky, and the liquor, barely drinkable. That whiskey might be cut with tobacco juice, turpentine, pepper, even gunpowder. A single drink could make you blind. Saloons were breeding grounds for violence, not heroic duels, but sloppy, drunken fights. People were armed, emotions ran high, and law enforcement? Sparse. Guns weren't just for show. People carried them for hunting, protection from wildlife, and survival on the road. Bears, cougars, wolves, venomous snakes. The frontier was a predator's domain. But here's something Hollywood rarely tells you. Many towns had strict gun control. In places like Dodge City or Tombstone, visitors were often required to check their weapons at the edge of town. Even the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral, it started because a gang refused to give up their guns. Those dramatic, high-noon showdowns? Mostly fiction. Real violence was fast, chaotic, and rarely fair. You keep walking. A crude sign marks the doctor's office, but don't expect much. Most frontier doctors had little to no formal training. Surgeries were done without proper anesthesia. Whiskey or a bit of morphine was all you got. No sterilized tools. Infections were deadly. A small cut could mean amputation. Common treatments included bloodletting, mercury, or arsenic. They often killed more patients than they helped. Childbirth was a gamble. In some areas, 1 in 4 women died during delivery. Dentistry? It was as brutal as it sounds. No anesthesia, rusty tools. You'd live with pain for years, until your teeth finally rotted away. In the Wild West, surviving an illness had more to do with luck than medicine. It's lunchtime, so you stop by the local restaurant, which is probably just someone's house serving meals for cash. What's on the menu? Same as breakfast. Tough meat, mushy vegetables, if there are any. Food safety doesn't exist. Spoiled food, dysentery, food poisoning, it's all common. As you eat, nearby voices talk about recent Indian raids, outlaw sightings, and the dangers of traveling alone. Truth is, Native American attacks were rare. More often, it was settlers and the military attacking indigenous tribes. But the frontier was a land of tension. The U.S. expansion displaced thousands of native families, sparking cycles of retaliation and violence. Outlaws, on the other hand, very real, especially in remote areas where lawmen were few. A single sheriff might cover thousands of square miles. Most justice came from vigilantes. Lynch mobs handled punishment without trial. Horse theft or cattle rustling? You could be hanging from a tree by sundown, guilty or not. After lunch, you stop by the general store. Need to stock up. But the prices are shocking. A simple can of peaches might cost you $20 in today's money. Why? Because getting supplies out here was hard and expensive. People spent most of their money on bare essentials. Luxury wasn't even a concept. The store reminds you of another truth. The frontier was lonely, very lonely. Mail arrived late. Newspapers were outdated by weeks or months. News from your family back east? You might never hear from them again. That distance took a psychological toll. Depression, alcoholism, and suicide were tragically common. As afternoon turns to evening, dark clouds gather on the horizon.
Weather on the frontier wasn't just uncomfortable, it could kill you. Storms came with no warning. No forecasts, no alerts. Blizzards stranded travelers. Tornadoes leveled entire towns. Flash floods swept away wagons. Droughts led to starvation. Your home? Maybe a sod house, a log cabin, or a simple wooden shack. None of them truly safe from nature's fury. Inside those homes, winters dropped below freezing. Summers turned upper floors into ovens. You rush back to your cabin to beat the storm, passing a group of men heading to the mine. One of the most dangerous jobs on the frontier. Mining accidents were common. Cave-ins, gas leaks, explosions. Even if you avoided death, you'd likely suffer long-term. Black lung from coal dust, mercury poisoning from gold processing. Other jobs weren't much safer. Farming used primitive tools, no safety features. Ranching, one wrong move around a 1,000-pound animal, and you're done. Logging, statistically one of the deadliest jobs of all.
Whatever your job was in the Wild West, your chances of serious injury or death were far higher than anything we experience today. You make it back to your cabin just as the rain begins to fall. The roof leaks in several places, so you set out a few rusted tin buckets to catch the dripping water. Not ideal, but in this world, it's an opportunity. Fresh water is hard to come by. Many settlers had no choice but to drink from the same streams used for livestock and bathing. Unsurprisingly, waterborne diseases spread quickly. Cholera, dysentery, and typhoid could kill a strong adult in a matter of days. You sit quietly in the dim light, listening to the rain tap on the wooden roof. It's hard not to think about how different this life is from the stories. No noble gunslingers, no clear heroes or villains. Just ordinary people trying to survive in extraordinary, brutal conditions. And somehow, some of them did. That alone speaks volumes about human grit and willpower. Night falls early. There's no electricity. A single candle casts dancing shadows on the wooden walls. You're cautious with the flame. One spark, just one, and your entire home could go up in smoke. Frontier fires weren't rare. They were expected. Many towns burned to the ground more than once, and there was no fire department to come save you. Exhausted, you crawl into bed. Every muscle in your body throbs. Your stomach churns from unfamiliar food, and your mind buzzes from the constant mental strain. You can't afford to let your guard down, ever. As your eyes close, you wonder, will you wake up tomorrow? Or will you just become another forgotten casualty in the harsh saga of the American frontier? The wind howls outside, a low, ghostly reminder of how small and fragile you really are out here. And if tomorrow does come, it'll bring all these same challenges, and new ones you can't yet imagine. In the Wild West, survival wasn't something you were given. It was something you earned, day by day, hour by hour, through pain, sacrifice, and endurance that few people today can even comprehend. The next morning, pale sunlight seeps through the cracks in your cabin walls. Your back screams from the rough straw mattress beneath you, but there's no time to rest. The Wild West doesn't wait. You get up, remembering everything that happened yesterday, and wondering, nervously, what new trials today might bring. Let's say you decide to leave town today. Maybe you're heading west to join a wagon train, or just trying to reach the next settlement. Travel in the 1870s wasn't a journey. It was a gamble. Yes, the Transcontinental Railroad had been completed by this time, connecting the east and west coasts. But unless you were wealthy or traveling between major cities, the rails weren't for you. Most people moved by wagon, horseback, or on foot. If you owned a horse, you were lucky. A good horse could cost several months' wages, and that's before the cost of saddles, bridles, and feed.
As for veterinary care, often that meant putting the animal down if it got seriously injured. If your horse spooked and threw you, something that happened often, you could find yourself alone, broken, and dying in the middle of nowhere. Wagon travel wasn't much better. Forget the rosy images of cheerful pioneers riding into the sunset. Real wagons were miserable. With no suspension, every rut, rock, and dip slammed through the wooden frame and into your spine. After hours of relentless jolting, many travelers grew sick, nauseous, like they were lost at sea. Roads were mostly just rough dirt paths, carved by previous travelers. After rain, they turned into mud pits. In the dry season, dust choked the air, getting into your eyes, your lungs, your food. Axles snapped, wheels cracked, and when that happened, you fixed it yourself. Or you didn't go anywhere. Now imagine you've joined a wagon train heading west, maybe to Oregon or California. You're on the Oregon Trail, a 2,000-mile death march through some of the harshest terrain in North America. Of the 400,000 people who attempted the journey, nearly 1 in 10 didn't make it. Historians call the Oregon Trail the longest graveyard in the nation. It's said that for every 350 feet, there was a grave. Crosses and stone markers lined the route, many unnamed. Families were forced to bury loved ones on the roadside and keep moving. Disease was the true killer out there. Cholera was the worst. One bad sip of water and you'd be violently sick, vomiting and defecating until your body gave out. People went from healthy to dead in less than a day. There was no cure. Sometimes entire wagon groups lost dozens to a single outbreak. Children died in heartbreaking numbers. Other killers, dysentery, typhoid, and mysterious mountain fevers, tore through the travelers with little mercy. And if the sickness didn't get you, the rivers might.
Crossing rivers was one of the deadliest parts of the westward journey. Wagons were never built to float, but rivers didn't wait for bridges. Pioneers faced dozens of crossings. Some had ferries or shallow fords, but many had no choice but to float their wagons across, turning them into makeshift boats. It didn't always work. Wagons tipped and capsized, oxen and horses drowned, supplies, food, clothing, tools lost in seconds. The Platte, Columbia, and Snake Rivers claimed hundreds of lives during the Great Migration. It wasn't quick, and it wasn't kind. Contrary to the myths of constant ambush, Native American attacks on wagon trains were actually rare. Most tribes, especially in the early decades, offered help, not harm. Guidance, trade, assistance at river crossings. Many migrants owed their survival to this unexpected kindness. But death still came in other forms. Accidents were brutally common. People were crushed beneath wagon wheels or kicked by draft animals. Many settlers carried guns, but few knew how to use them safely. Firearms discharged in tents, wagons in campsites. Children died. So did their parents. And while the physical toll was visible, the psychological toll was far worse. Imagine burying your child in the morning and being forced to keep moving by afternoon. No time to mourn, no time to break. Every delay on the trail meant risking an early snowfall in the mountains, and that could trap an entire wagon train, dooming everyone aboard. Mental breakdowns were a quiet epidemic. Many couldn't take the endless grief, stress, and fear. Suicide wasn't talked about, but it happened. Often. And yet, even after making it to Oregon or California, the struggle didn't end. Many settlers arrived with nothing left, their money gone, their health broken, their spirits drained. Some died within weeks of reaching the land they'd risk everything to reach. Others found that this promised land came with its own cruelties, unforgiving weather, scarce jobs, hostile neighbors. But let's say you didn't make the full journey west. Maybe you're just heading to a nearby town, only a few miles away. Even that could get you killed. Outlaws roamed the trails, targeting lone travelers or small groups. Stagecoach robberies, though exaggerated in later stories, did happen often enough to terrify people into traveling armed, or not at all. The land itself was no safer than the criminals. Flash floods could wipe out entire camps in moments. Desert heat could cook a man alive. Blizzards buried entire caravans. The Donner Party wasn't a horror story, it was history. And they weren't the only ones forced to make unthinkable choices when the snow closed in. Navigation was another gamble. There were no GPS apps, no road signs, no reliable maps. You followed landmarks, trees, rocks, ridges, but they changed, or you misunderstood. Get lost with low supplies, and the prairie might become your grave. And then, there's the part of the West most movies ignore: the diversity. The frontier wasn't just white cowboys on dusty trails. It was a crossroads of humanity. Chinese immigrants built railroads, ran shops, and mined the hills. Mexican landowners were swindled or pushed off their lands. Black pioneers hoped to escape the South, but found new forms of discrimination waiting out west. For Native Americans, this wasn't opportunity. It was a slow, grinding apocalypse. In just a few centuries, their population shrank from millions to barely 300,000 by 1900. Disease, violence, starvation, broken treaties. Entire cultures were uprooted, scattered, or erased. And this was the real Wild West. Not a gun duel at noon, not a quick-draw showdown, but a place where survival meant wrestling with grief, disease, hunger, isolation, and a future that felt just out of reach. Please like, comment, and subscribe.